Welcome to Zero Knowledge. I'm your host, Anna Rose. In this podcast, we will be exploring the latest in zero-knowledge research and the decentralized web, as well as new paradigms that promise to change the way we interact and transact online. This week, I chat with David and Alexander from Privado ID and Billions Network. We dive back into the topic of ZK for ID with this episode. These projects and the team behind them stem from an earlier privacy project called Iden3, one of the first ever to propose the use of ZK for identity on-chain. Iden3 is also the team behind the Circom DSL, a deeply influential and very much used language and toolset. We discuss how the project evolved through their time working within the Polygon team, all the way to their current focus on Billions Network. We discuss how their approach compares to some of the other ID projects we have covered this year, and where they see the future of ZK and ID systems heading. Now, before we start, I want to just let you know that we've just recently kicked off Season 3 of the ZK Whiteboard Sessions. The ZK Whiteboard Sessions are produced by ZK Hack in collaboration with Bain Capital Crypto. Every 2 weeks, we have our hosts, Nico and Guillermo, going deep into the key concepts in ZK, and you can watch them over on the Zero Knowledge Podcast YouTube channel. I've added a link in the show notes. Please do check them out. These are a great resource to learn about the fundamentals and techniques powering the ZK systems we often discuss on the show. Now here's my interview with David and Alexander. Today, I'm here with David and Alexander. Alexander's also known as Sasha, from Privado ID and the Billions Network. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
So today we're going to be diving back into the topic of ID in the ZK world. So using ZKPs to create IDs, usually on-chain. We have an almost unofficial series going on this year where every month I've had one ID team join us. And so far, we've had teams like Raramo, Self, the ZK ID team from PSE. We've also talked to teams like Reclaim. In the past, we've talked to Pluto that are doing ZK TLS. We've talked with Costas from SWE, who's done ZK Login. Yeah, the ZK email team. All of those kind of projects touch on this idea of ID. And so I'm very excited to jump into Privado and Billions Network with both of you. In a way, it's one of the newer ID projects with Billions, but actually, it's one of the oldest. As I understand it, this project and this group, you pioneered this back with Iden3, which I think came out, 2020?
2018.
So, oh wow, even earlier. Amazing.
Yeah.
Billions for me is actually a new thing. So I'm very excited to jump in. Let's start off by defining these two orgs. What's Privado ID? What's Billions Network? And is it the same team?
Yeah, absolutely. Billions and Privado is the same team.
Okay.
Basically, Privado ID was the brand we created after spinning off from Polygon. Mm-hmm. And I will come back later to the
history,
let's say, phases of the project. But basically the same project as Iden3 evolving down the line. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to create something that was able to create this kind of volume of users in a way, some synergies, some capacity to create scale, because Privado is a technology stack. We've been like a developer toolkit for years, and at some point, so many teams were using part of our stack to build components, things. Some teams also contributed, and we really appreciate that. But overall, we wanted to see our project getting traction and getting used in the way we want this to be used. Plus, we saw the opportunity to create a network of humans and AI agents, because we have the technology to also include identity for agents, in the way we think is the correct one. So that's other teams building the network of humans, and we thought we had a good proposition and good technical stack to do this in a more usable, friendly, and scalable way.
So is this what Billions is then?
Yes.
Okay.
Billions is, if you want to say in short, it's a different approach, similar to Worldcoin Humanity Protocol, if you think about it, but with our technology stack.
I see.
With the approach of mobile first and progressive verification, but in a way that's able to compose and, use our technical stack to do so many things. And we'll discuss about this.
Is Privado, though, still a product as well? Or is it just a tool stack?
Privado is a product. We developed a platform to connect issuers of trust, consumers of trust, and users, to connect them across multiple different chains, and to have some payment rails. And all of this respects users' privacy. And we are able to deploy a lot of use cases there, about several applications. Privado is the name because we are obsessed about privacy, as you probably know since the beginning. And that has been our motto and our way to do things all this time. But overall, this was not getting traction because development of business in B2B is complicated and the cultural problem is there. When you basically want to have verification if there's issuers, and the issuers were there. We had like 50 plus issuers of trust, including most of the well-known verifiers and KYC partners. But then, if there's no volume, if there's no mass of users, critical mass, that's difficult to launch. Then billions came to solve this situation.
Cool. Okay, so if I understand correctly, Privado ID is, it's the original kind of spin-out project, but it's focused more on the B2B side of things and getting sort of the credential creators maybe to start using it. Billions is meant to be more of like is it like a registry of people who've validated their ID on chain or something like that? Or they're like unique users? Like, is it a blockchain? I actually don't know what even the container of this would be.
So in a way, it's a registry. In scope of Billions, we have multiple issuers that we built ourselves that are issuing credentials for the users based on their data, their documents. And that's one part that is kind of registry part. But also we have a blockchain where user identities are created and managed. And also we are working on different other blockchains and so on to be able to verify this data that user has collected in the form of verifiable credentials. So it's overall many things, and a few of them are actually issuance of credentials by us in a ZK way.
Cool. I think it would be good to get to know both of you as well before we dive deeper into these two worlds. David, you've been on the show in the past. You came on quite a while ago to talk about ZK EVMs. This is, I think, one of the first episodes when we were introducing the concept back in 2021. You're on the show with Jordi.
Yeah.
So in that show, we would have done a bit of backstory on you up to that point, but maybe it would make sense to share with us, what have you been working on since then? You just mentioned Polygon. We just recently had Maiden on the show as well. But tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since 2021.
Well, we were working very hard on Polygon CKVM until we get the mainnet done. This was in 2023. So that was basically the focus for us.
Within Polygon?
Within Polygon, yeah. Focus that basically took most of our bandwidth. Sasha will explain later what they were doing at the same time. Okay. Because the funny story is that the identity project continued all these years.
Yeah.
After we delivered the CKVM, I took the role of CTO at Polygon, and this was a very interesting period of time because we wanted to transition the services of Polygon to CK, and it was pretty challenging. But still, the transformation is there. The next thing that Polygon launches is the AG layer, as you probably know, and
the AG layer,
interconnection of CK networks with these characteristics of security. And this was very exciting, very challenging. But at some point in time, I turned my attention again to identity. And this was the spin-off of Privado ID, because Polygon ID at the time, who was renamed as Privado ID. This happened in 2024 last year. And what we did was to join hands with a team called Disco, YC. Okay. Disco is led by Evan McMullen, who is an OG in the space and in the Ethereum space, and verify identity and verifiability of data. And we gave this aspect of not only getting CK but also applicability on verifiable data. And Evan has been a co-founder of this project of Privado. She's currently the CEO, and we're working together on this Billions network right now. But she's not too much into CK because maybe the fusion of both teams made us better in terms of combining different capabilities and also different sources, because the Disco team basically came from the US. Now we are more global and we have a general different mindset because we are más privado, we are more based in Europe. Merging with Disco team was very very good option for us. It was making us a better team because getting people coming from a different angle of identity and different origin. They come from the US basically, and Evan is very expert on the identity matter, and the strategy was shifting a little bit for us. So we are now more focused on the growth. And the representation of the new strength of the team is the growth and the mindshare we're having with the Billions core team. So we are very excited about this and all the next steps.
Cool. So if I just to follow kind of the story, we knew Iden3 back in the day. That was the first time I think that this idea of using ZK for ID was even proposed. I mean, maybe it was based on some earlier work. You were saying this is 2018, so, quite a ways back. You also joined Polygon as part of Hermes.
Yes.
But Iden3, I guess, went with you to Polygon, became Polygon ID,
exactly,
which was one of the sort of ZK projects. And then you spun out as Privado ID, merging with this project called disco.xyz. Is that correct? Or did you merge after?
Yeah.
To create Billions?
No, it's going back in time. We founded Iden3 in 2018.
Yep.
The technical leader was Jordi, and Jordi was the kid who came with the idea, and they convinced me to get into the space, and also Anthony, to create this technology based on Ethereum decentralized identity. At some point, the protocol was cooking, and Jordi said, we need privacy. And then his vision was, development of Circom, Snark.js libraries, who are super well known. And we were working on privacy all this time until it was impossible to verify anything on Ethereum. We pivoted to scalability with Hermes.
Yep.
And then we were acquired by Polygon.
I see. You pivoted to scalability with Hermes, joined Polygon. But
yes.
Yeah, what happened to Iden3? Like, it joined Polygon too, though, right?
Iden3 is an association who owns a specific IP for this public good of Circom, Snark.js, and Iden3 protocol.
Okay.
So basically, we joined Polygon to develop the toolkit on top of Iden3.
I see.
So this Polygon ID. And then is where Sasha and other colleagues started to work on the identity. Basically, the Iden3 protocol was pretty much at the beginning. So these guys finalized the protocol, finalized the application, and then we started to build layers of utility. And the finalization of privacy in terms of communications was also very important. After Polygon ID, we spin off as Privado ID, joined hands with Disco, and at the beginning of 2025, we rebranded to Billions to have this new network of users.
So is Privado ID Billions now, or is there really two orgs? Because you do have two websites.
No, it's the same. It's the same one.
It's the same thing. Okay, got it.
We are the same guys. In fact, if you call us Billions, it's also fine. If Privado is still a brand, we have a few collaborations with governments who are already ongoing, like in the Department of Labor in India, and also some projects in the Emirates that we started before the Billions brand, and we are working still with Privado. Privado as a brand still exists, but Billions is our focus, and the team is basically Billions today.
Cool. So Sasha, let's turn over to your background. We know you a little bit through the whiteboard sessions. You actually hosted back in 2022 one of the modules on ZK ID. I guess you were talking about what it was at the time. Let's hear your story, also kind of like what got you excited about this, what you worked on at Polygon and within the Polygon ID team, and how that developed.
Yeah, basically I'm in the crypto space from 2013, and I started with Bitcoin, and we were developing applications that were working with Bitcoin. So it was like we started development of kind of payment processor. We tried to build a project that was a competitor to Coinbase, this kind of things. And then finally it didn't work for us because we couldn't solve all the legal stuff and so on. So we pivoted a bit. It's just I was a co-founder of a small startup, and we were building this stuff. And we pivoted to build a network of Bitcoin faucets.
Faucets, you mean? Like
yes,
where you get free Bitcoin?
Yes.
On a test net or on the main?
No, mainnet.
Wow, that existed?
Yeah, it was in 2014.
Okay.
And the funny story is that it was so popular that We were producing 2% of all the transactions in Bitcoin network.
Wow, that's a cool claim to fame.
Yeah.
Nice.
We were in top 100 sites in Brazil, and yeah, it was interesting time, but we couldn't get a lot from this because you're giving away money. You earn a little bit from ads, so yeah, we needed to shut down this. Then I was working on different blockchain projects with the guys that finally work right now in Privado and Billions. We were building mainly government use cases, like proof of concepts for governments.
Okay.
Like we built a land registry for Sweden. Then we had been doing something for banking, for tax accounting, and so on private blockchains. And one of the projects that we worked was actually self-sovereign identity. So we started building a SSI solution based on Ethereum.
What year is that you get into this topic?
It was in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2019.
So Iden3 was already around at that point, but you weren't working on Iden3. You were working kind of independently.
Yeah, I was working in a company, and there was a change in the company structure. They merged with another company, and they changed a little bit direction. The other company had already their own SSI team, and they were working using anonymous credentials and this ZK stuff from it. We tried to integrate both solutions. That's where I understood how this anonymous credentials and ZK stuff works there. It was not usable totally because it's very slow. It was not working on mobile, and we even developed something to make it work on mobile. But in the end, it was like
it's too early.
Really,
sounds like.
Yeah.
So at what point do you start to merge in with the Iden3 folks? Did you just join Polygon, or had you been part of the Iden3 team before?
Yeah, it was before. So yeah, then after we finished this project, like of merger of these two identity solutions, like we couldn't sell it, our companies that we were working. So that's the point when I met David, and he was looking for a team to continue working on Iden3 protocol. It was exactly the time when there was a change of the direction, and concentration was mainly on the scalability, scaling. And David and Jordi wanted to continue work on identity, and that's where I joined and brought a few guys that we were working on the identity stuff. And yeah, that's how we started.
And then you would have gone on into Polygon when that acquisition happened. Polygon ID, what was that? Was that like a different team from what you were, David, what you sort of suggested there was like, yes, the whole org went in, but like you guys focused on the scaling part. Sasha, were you leading the ID part in the meantime? Was there a specific team on that?
Yeah, so we were a separate team. We joined Polygon a bit later than Hermes project. So we kind of continued to work on the identity maybe for half a year or something like that. Then we finally started as Polygon ID. It was a very nice period of time where we were expanding a lot, not only developing the protocol, but finally products on top of it. We built a lot of tooling. We expanded the protocol. We implemented a lot of very cool features on the privacy side. Then bigger changes started to happen after we spin off.
I see.
Yeah, but the team was the same. Basically, they started in Iden3, continued with Polygon ID, and we have the same team since probably 2020.
Yeah.
In those earlier days of the privacy protocol and the ID protocol, like you were sort of saying, like there weren't the libraries or tools to really do what you wanted. So it was you would kind of aim to build something, but then you'd probably find out, I'm guessing, you'd find out you'd had to build so many things in tooling to get there. And would you say like Circom came out of the attempt to build Iden3? Like, was Circom the sort of one of those tools where you're like, we need a DSL. We're going to have to build a language that and tool set and kit that can that with which we can build Iden3?
Yes. Well, Circom was a creation of Jordi. Jordi is the OG here, and he was, at the time, he said, we need privacy for identity. And then he started, I'm going to create a toolkit because the Bellman libraries were not very practical. He said, I need to do something more easy to implement, some toolkit that makes more sense. And then he closed himself for a few weeks, and then he came out with Circom. So, I mean, there's a lot of contributions later in the team.
Yeah.
I mean, Sasha and the team are the current team that provides support on the Iden3 channel for Circom. So this is how the involvement we have today. But the main vision and the idea, and even the first version was Jordi's creation. So full credit to him.
The reason I'm actually bringing that up, though, is I think a lot of listeners are really familiar with Circom. And this is just speaking to the origin story. And so what you're from what I'm gathering, it's Circom was originally really built for the ID use case, but it's been since then used for all sorts of things, right? It's being used by lots of teams.
Yes, because the initial process, the thinking was, Ethereum is going to help us to have decentralized identity. And we were pivoting on the concept of an Ethereum account can be an identity and several ideas. At some point we started, no, we need a state, transition state. Mm-hmm. And then we came with the idea, but where do we put the data? And putting data on chain is a super bad idea, and even if it's encrypted, because it's there forever. So how we minimize data that goes on chain, but still you can refer to this information. And then Jordi said, there's this thing called CK that we need to solve here. So Circom is basically fully focused on privacy for identity.
For identity.
That's part of Iden3. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, we did episodes. I think I have an old episode just on Circom with Jordi, and we'll dig those up to add links if people are curious, because I'm sure he talked about the origin story there too. But I guess for me, I had sort of forgotten that was the connecting point, and that this was the use case that actually prompted that development. It's been super influential on all sorts of fronts, so very cool to find that out again.
Yeah, and the funny story is that we are still using the same technology ourselves.
Nice.
We've been going through so many optimizations, which Sasha can talk a lot about, but
cool.
It's the same tech.
Okay, so I think we should actually dive into the tech of the sort of the underlying stack, and maybe you can share, Sasha, what it was while it was Polygon ID. And if it's changed in that sort of transition out. I mean, you're saying it's similar. You're using the same tool stack, but what have you been adding to it? What was it originally? And what is it today?
Yeah, originally it was a ZK identity. When I joined the project, it was a set of libraries and proof of concepts, but it was not working with anything like decentralized identifiers or verifiable credentials. It was just pieces of information that were not they were not standard ones, and they were very custom ones. And first thing we started was trying to make it standard compliant. So initially we started with decentralized identifiers, and then we added support for verifiable credentials. And that was a big part of work that we started before joining Polygon, but it was actually done during the time at Polygon. So we transitioned from this custom data formats for the credentials to verifiable credentials.
Do you want to define verifiable credentials again? Because I think we've talked about this in a lot of these other ZK-ID focused episodes. But yeah, what do you mean when you say that?
Basically, it's just a JSON container. There are a few containers that are compliant to verifiable credentials data model. One of them is JSON LD, JSON linked data. So we are using this one. There are a few other just plain JSON files and JWT token or some other flavors there. Yeah, but all of them somehow are verifiable credentials.
The funny part of the verifiable credentials is that we work on the standards. In terms of adoption, the W3C set up these formats for interoperability of data, and they are used all over the place, not only in crypto Web3, but in any, let's say, transactional identity. And the DIDs and verifiable credentials, was something we had in mind from the beginning to be interoperable. So that was a very important step.
When you say that, this year you just mentioned like the JWT tokens, like you're talking about like Google Auth, right? Like the Google sign-ins and stuff. Like we've covered this a little bit in like previous ZK email episodes. But what are you building? Because like, are you more like interfacing with existing verifiable credentials coming from existing systems, or are you creating a system to create verifiable credentials?
I would say both. Right now in Billions, we are doing both. One is ingesting existing data and transforming into a format that is easily provable. So our verifiable credential format has ZK friendly signature schema and also revocation schema. So we have developed this part that makes standard verifiable credentials ZK friendly, where like existing other implementations, they are not ZK friendly. It's just regular, ECDSA signatures or RSA signatures with revocation statuses that are not privacy preserving. Like you need to reveal your identifier or identifier of the credential to make use of it, of the revocation. So yeah, we were developing all these privacy things and ZK friendly signature based on Baby Jab Jab elliptic curve that Georgie co-authored. So yeah, it's building blocks, and we were targeting standards to be able to go to government use cases, to broader, other than just Web3, to broader communities.
Makes sense. Have you followed the ZK email or the ZK login work over at SWE? Like, is it similar to what they're doing? Have you shared any of the work with them or taken any idea? Yeah, I'm just curious if there's like a little bit of a collaboration there, because it sounds like a space that they've been working on.
Yeah, we collaborated a bit with ZK email guys. We helped to resolve a few issues on the Circom side, optimizing their circuits. We have guys who are working a lot on the optimizing prover. We have built Rapid Snark and made it work on mobile. So we collaborated with a lot of teams, including Open Passport, on making it work like better on their side. Yeah, so it's like smaller collaborations, smaller just casual helping guys. Not that we were like official partners or anything like that.
But it sounds like you're working on the same libraries on some level. And just a note, Open Passport that you just mentioned, we had on the show Self. Open Passport was sort of the origin team that kind of merged with a group out of Cello to create Self. We did an interview with them. I'll add a link to all of those previous ID projects that we've had on the show. So yeah, and so what you're saying is kind of like the underlying libraries for a lot of these things. I mean, they're either coming from Circom, or there's like a lot of collaboration with Circom and the ID work that you've been doing. Would you say, like, are you doing the same kind of products as they're doing, or have you taken it in a different direction?
No, it's pretty different, because what we are doing is more like universal container to ship data, whereas their projects are specifically built products that have implemented specific cryptography to verify just Google login or just email that was sent. So it's purpose built, very
narrow, basically.
Narrow, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Where we are building a protocol that is covering these use cases with a bit of work. It's possible to issue credentials produced from this data that ZK Mail or ZK Login or other doing. Actually, what we have done is we've taken anon-Aadhaar circuits and we've built issuer that is converting data from the Aadhaar document into the verifiable credential. So instead of calling anon-Aadhaar circuit each time you need to prove something based on your Aadhaar card, you are doing it once. And then you have a verifiable credential in ZK-friendly format that you can use for whatever reason the verifier is asking you. Like we support a lot of different things. So what real identity protocols are doing is that you can do, for example, selective disclosure. So disclose some field from the credentials that you have, or you can do predicate proofs. You can prove that you have a credential that states that your age is over 18. Without disclosing anything from the credential, without even disclosing metadata, who have issued, when is it expired or not. Like this, all of these checks are done inside ZK circuits, and then a verifier receives only proof that yes, this user has valid credential from trusted issuer and he's over 18.
That's cool.
I would add to this that generally our approach was always very broad in terms of the use cases we can support. In the face of Iden3, we're building this public good as the protocol, the CK language, all these things. As the Polygon ID, the objective was to do developer toolkits, so they could build on the Polygon ecosystem, although it's CVM, so they could build anywhere anyway. With Privado, we wanted to create this marketplace and ecosystem where everything was possible and you could build this any kind of credentials. On top of that, we have tools to create custom queries that from a specific verifiable credential you can extract. The verifier can, on the fly, ask you for specific CK proofs, composing credentials. So every sort of things that are very powerful. But it always was open in a way that you can do so many things, but what we do here, no? These teams have been more focused in solving a specific use case. So with Billions, this is the first time that we are optimizing for something, which is basically growth of a network of humans and AI. And of course, all these technologies out there, and we will start reflecting these capabilities very soon. And the product will be able to do very cool things. But we went from broad to narrow. This is probably happening now. But Sasha could talk about tooling. If you go to documentation, talks about Privado ID, you will find so much. So many teams have been contributing and helping, but also using.
Okay. And actually, this leads me to a point where I wanted to do a little bit of a comparison between some of the projects that we have talked to. So you've sort of shared a little bit about Self and ZK email being very focused. There was another project called Rarimo that we had on earlier this year. They're doing certificates, passports, bringing them on chain. Like, what is the comparison? Like, let's now go past Privado, because I understand you're now focusing in. So, in the focused part of the project, are you aiming to be like those projects? Are they different?
Yes, we are building very similar product here, Billions.
As Rarimo or as Self?
Something in the middle.
Okay, interesting.
It is. We are taking Self circuits and we have modified them to produce verifiable credentials. So one part of it is just verify a signature of the passport, and the data in it. That's where we are using open passport circuits, Self circuits. But we are not verifying signature in ZK. We are verifying signature inside trusted execution environment. In this, we are close to Rarimo, how they are doing. So they are also verifying signature using Oracle. In our case, it's a trusted execution environment. And I know Rarimo team and Lasha since 2019.
So you also knew them back in the day. Okay.
Yes. Cool. So I participated in hackathons with Lasha and we won a few. So I know them for a very long time. We collaborate on different topics.
I think you actually reached out, Sasha, because of the recent episode we did with ZK ID from the Ethereum Foundation. So the episode was ZK PDF and ZK ID. Ying Tong was sharing with us sort of the PSC's work on the ZK ID front. Like one of the questions that came up there was sort of the revocability, and that's kind of where you reached out. You're like, oh, we have a solution that does it, but how would you compare to what they're building? And are you also targeting, because their whole goal was to like fit within the European Union's digital identity effort? I'm assuming you're aware of that. Is that also something that you're aiming to be able to provide with Billions?
Yes. First of all, we tried to aim for this EUD wallet and all the standards, and we started standardization efforts. And actually, one of the results of these efforts was that just, I think, very recently a report was published by the ETSI group. It's like a standardization body in European Union that was reviewing different approaches to ZK identity and overall identity standards that are out there. They included Iden3 protocol and our signature schemas and our approach to the revocation also.
Okay, so you are aware of the EU initiative.
Yeah.
Are you similar to what they're working on over at ZKID and PSC, or would you say you're taking a different approach?
So ZKID right now looks like they are more in exploratory mode. They are looking into different directions, what could work, trying to one approach, then another, and so on. So we have the solution, and our approach was try to get this to work and make it compliant.
Already.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about this revocation, because that was kind of what you had reached out on originally. It was like, we have this way to do verifiable credential revocation that's different from the sort of, I think you had sort of showed like a naive approach, which was just like, oh, you have to reveal everything and then you can revoke. But here you've been able to do it in a privacy preserving way. How does it work? And for anyone who's not clear on what the revocation problem is, it's like you've registered, you've kind of signed up to be part of one of these ID systems, but now say you've lost your passport before its expiration date and you need to sort of recall it.
Yeah, so the concept is that there are three actors, right, in the identity ecosystem. One of them is identity holder, who has this credential. Then there is issuer, the one who is creating credential for the user, right? And there is a verifier. So what verifier wants to is verify that, get some data, verifiable data about the user, and wants to know that this credential based on which it was generated is not revoked, like passport, or maybe it's a credential saying that you're an employee of a company or that you have control over Ethereum address, let's say. Yeah. So how we solve it is that on the user side, identity holder is generating zero knowledge proof that credential is not revoked. And how it works is that in the verifiable credential, we have a nonce, revocation nonce. It is a random number that issuer is putting into it.
The issuer. So you're talking, this is not the ID holder. The issuer itself, so like the government or something.
Yeah.
It's adding something that says it has not been revoked. This is a valid ID.
Yeah, so in the credential itself, there is just an identifier.
Okay.
And then issuer is maintaining a Merkle tree where all the revoked credentials are added. And then user needs to prove that his revocation nonce is not included.
Okay, got it.
And for this to work efficiently, another big part of the protocol of the system is sparse Merkle trees. We're using sparse Merkle trees. Another thing that Jordi initially contributed and created a way to build efficiently, like you can prove that you not only that item is inside Merkle tree, but that it is not in Merkle tree. Yeah.
Proof of inclusion or proof of exclusion. Okay. The relationship you just described was between the ID holder creating sort of the initial registration, making sure that it's not on a revoked list. But what happens if the revocation happens after the registration?
Yeah, it's a job of issuer to publish identity trees. We call it identity trees. One of them is revocation tree. There are two other identity trees in our protocol. One of them is called claims tree, where credentials could be added, or more specifically, hashes of the credentials. And there is another tree called roots tree, where older claims roots are going, but it's more a technical thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but overall, issuer needs to publish a revocation tree. And we have different options of how to do that. It could be on-chain, it could be off-chain, by the issuer itself, or we have a concept called reverse hash service, where there could be a generic pool of hashes published. It's not even trees, it's just hashes with a pre-image sent, and then you can resolve out of it. You're having just a Merkle root of a revocation tree. You can resolve the items that you want to get.
When this issuer would publish the new updated revocation tree, does it automatically check the existing registry to see if any of them match up? Like, would it prompt the revocation of some of these?
Yeah. So how it works on the verifier side, the verifier has a...
It's the verifier who's going to see this revocation tree.
No.
Oh?
It's user who is checking this revocation tree to generate a proof.
Yeah.
But the verifier then receives only Merkle root and needs to check that it's pretty recent one.
Okay.
That user has referred.
Uh-huh.
So there is a validity period during which there could be changes, different changes to Merkle roots, but still the one that user have used is considered valid. It could be like verifier could say, okay, I'm okay with 2-minute delay for the, or maybe if user is offline and he have fetched all this data and then proving offline something, then maybe a week is okay. Yes.
Okay, so the ID holder has to generate these proofs, I guess, more regularly. Like, it's not like a one-time thing where you register, you have a proof, and then you can use it as much as you want. This is like, you'd have to be doing it, I guess, on a certain cadence. And then the verifier would only accept it as long as it's still not in that revocation tree, or as long as the nullifier is not in that revocation tree.
Well, it depends on the proof, no? Because if you need to prove you are over 18 years, this proof might be like forever. Don't expire, but depends if you want to prove that you have access to a directory in a server, you might want to do this every time. So proving it on the mobile device is taking 5 seconds, 3 seconds, something like that. So it's very convenient.
But going back to that example of like, why do we need a revocation? Like, what if you lose your passport? You lose the initial certificate, so somebody else out there might have it. You don't want someone else to use it on your behalf to prove that they're over 18 when they're not. the fake IDs. But yeah, like, what would you do? Like, I guess it depends on the system, though. It depends on like how frequently they're actually needing to update and make that connection to the new revocation tree.
So the idea here is that we are not imposing these restrictions, or the user does not need to do these proofs at special cadence or whatever. Verifier sets requirements to the proof, and then user generates a proof according to these requirements. And one of them could be freshness of the revocation status that was used to prove it. And in some cases, it is okay. And verifier could even say that I don't care about revocation. For example, you had the valid credential that you were an employee, and still after you move to another job, it still has value because you can prove that you worked at Google.
Fair enough. Okay, so sometimes you don't need to do like this updated revocation, but other times you do.
Yeah. We have the whole protocol to do these interactive queries between verifier user and user issuer. So the privacy is still kept.
Is that all within Billions, though, or does Billions make choices? Like, I'm still trying to figure out like how Billions builds on this stack. Like, is Billions saying, okay, we're going to set a revocation period for this particular system, but that the underlying more general purpose could be used in all these different ways?
Exactly.
So Billions does make decisions.
Yeah, Billions make some decisions because the level of verifications to consider you a human or a unique human or a fully verified human might require a different set of verifications. And we might want fresh documents, we might want this case specific support for passports. But in terms of extension to different use cases, then as I saying, the verifier will say, all this technology is available there in the underlying stack, so we'll make it use as convenient.
I'm just trying to make a bit of a distinction, though, between that general purpose tech stack, which, as you said, can do anything, but also the Billions network itself. Like, if you are in Billions, what's your revocation period? Like, have you made a decision on that? Is it something that you check every 3 minutes or every week or?
No, regarding revocation, it's up to the verifier to specify how fresh proof should be.
Okay.
Yeah, including revocation part. But if we are talking about other things, then it's not to Billions itself, but to the issuer who is issuing this credential. So we have a few issuers integrated. We have KYC providers. We have proof of uniqueness based on biometrics. And it depends on their business decisions. Basically, it's how often they check that the passport is not revoked. And we are building, for example, now AML checks together with these KYC providers. And it would be, depending on the use case, would be different period of validity for credential.
I see.
And they would check on a regular basis, is this person in sanction list or not, for example. And then it could be that they are checking once per day, then as soon as they discover person in sanction list, they revoke a credential.
I'm just trying to figure out how like customizable interfacing with the Billions network is. So what you described there, you're working with a KYC issuer. They internally may have different use cases where they want a certain revocation period to pass to prove that these things are still valid. Does that mean that like they're interfacing only with the Billions network? They're not creating their own stuff. Like they are actually using this network, but there are sort of like levels that they can set for those individual cases. Is that how it works to interface, to like work with the Billions network?
It's kind of decoupled a lot. Like we are not imposing any restrictions on how often they are issuing, how often they are revoking things. It's basically open marketplace and everyone could be an issuer and everyone could be verifier and an identity holder. Including AI agents. They could also have identity, and that's another direction that we are building right now. But it's more like a framework for everyone. And Billions have only a few things that we have decided is when we are issuing credentials ourselves. And it is passport credentials, Aadhaar credentials, and in the future we would have a few more that we would be issuing in a similar to TLS, this kind of
ZK-TLS that
yes.
isn't really ZK.
Or
MPC TLS?
Yes.
Okay. So you're also, like, you will potentially also be able to do things like prove something about a website. Like, oh yeah, you have a login to this bank. And that would also contribute to your KYC, like your identity on Billions.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's cool.
This and we'll also work on reputation on top of identity.
Okay.
So coming from attestations from members of the network, plus also some process of activity based on interaction, based on even on chain interaction. So we'll work on the reputation layer. The project of Billions has three phases. The first one is building this human and AI network, is developing the growth, and this foundation of identity and privacy between them. Second phase is reputation. So we need to build this to provide rich interactions in a way. And the last one is to support open economy use cases. So we can just lean on this verification and reputation as an extension of verification. So peer-to-peer interaction with privacy can be more valuable to everyone.
Interesting. I mean, that idea of reputation isn't something we've talked about much with any of the other teams so far. Back in the day, a few years ago, we had Sysmo on, and they had been talking about this on-chain reputation-based ID, which I loved. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to hear that you're bringing that back as something else that could or maybe it's never gone away.
Yeah.
But bringing it as something else that can kind of validate that you're an individual, that you will work in good standings beyond real world certification. like sort of off-chain certificates.
Yeah, for us, looks like the natural path because once you see everything we can do with the protocol, you see there's a lot of opportunities to build things on top of that. And we don't even need to be ourselves building everything. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of tools and space to design things once we are opening this kind of network to other teams to build on top of that.
So you mentioned some of your customers or like planned customers, so potentially KYC issuers. You had mentioned governments, but I wondered if that was more on the Privado B2B side of things. Like, do you expect these entities that could use, I don't know, ID'd people to be customers of Billions? Like, I'm just sort of curious, like what is the relationship between them and your network? Like, I'm assuming you would have a lot of the register. So like the people who are actually creating little IDs on chain, it's happening within Billions. But how does the rest of the world, like how does a company interface with that? Do they have their own segment that they have already checked? Do they have access to the entire thing?
Well, the network is a registry of users. They can interact with any applications they want to. I mean, you can have a company application and you share a link with these users, and the users proactively can just approach this. And the objective of developing the network is to create more and more use cases that benefit from the scale of reusing credentials.
Mm-hmm.
So a company can issue an application that's for employees only, and they issue credentials. Credentials may be even, I'm an employee or I have an access to a specific door, and these credentials may be revoked when you cease to be an employee there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one use case. And the same person can have Billions credential to do something else.
Okay.
It's a framework and an ecosystem that we aim to have, accessibility, but not to the data because data is private. It's basically you offer things to the users and the users might decide because it's about reusability. If I have verified my passport once and I'm able to prove I'm over 18 and I am citizen from a specific country, if the application is compatible with that, why would I need to do this again?
Okay, and that's exactly the problem you're trying to solve for, because we find ourselves constantly sending our passports around in like plain text. It's super scary. But in this case, you picture sort of what it sounds like is you would do a one-time registration for the document.
Yes.
You might be able to add to your identity, it sounds like, for specific use cases. If maybe one company is asking like, cool, passport's good, but we also want proof of address, or we want proof that you've LP'd in this DeFi protocol or something.
Exactly.
You would be able to sort of like add to your ID within Billions.
That's the power of our stack. You can add as many credentials for user, for application, for interaction. And users might hold like a wallet in the phone with different credentials.
Yeah.
To access different services.
What about if you like don't want everything on one identity though? Like what if you want to start again? Say you're
I love this question.
Say you're like you're not a bad actor, but some bad things have happened. I don't know. And you sort of want a fresh start. Like what do? Are you forever tied to this thing?
Yeah. We have a very cool feature that Sasha can explain of derived entities.
Yeah, first of all, we are limiting exposure of the identity. So we, for each interaction with different third party, we are generating different identifier for the user. So if it's doxed, it's just one identifier of you. Like you have thousands and you can generate another one and still be able to use all the credentials that were issued to you by all the other issuers and so on. Yeah.
But still, like, if you're talking about sort of this reputation score, though, I mean, I think there's an example where, like, you're a bad actor and you get a bad reputation, and it's good that that's attached to your identity. But what if, like, you're interfacing with some organization and that organization gets strange and starts to, like, give bad reputation just by having been connected to it? I mean, you're saying that you have individual identifiers, but could that still affect an overall reputation? And if so, how would you ever like clean it up or switch or start again?
One way to solve it, and we are doing that, is that we are using, like user is using private identity, private profile wherever user can. And then if you need to expose some data, you are limiting exposure, but also what we are building is public profiles that you can share with someone. And that's where reputation would be collected in a way. And yeah, you can close it and use another one. You would be able to prove that still you're unique, you're a real human. You can start over without losing all of your data that you have already collected.
Any identity can create a credential or issue attestation over other identity. So basically, trust is based on who is the issuer of this claim or this credential. Basically, we see this in a positive way. Users might want to collect the credentials they are interested in their wallet so they can reuse. But if you have noise and undesired interactions, and this might be there, but nobody can identify you anyway. So it's not tied to you. It's not a burden for users. Basically, users, they use whatever credentials they are interested in proving.
And it could be like an opt-in. You could share your reputation if it makes sense in that particular case.
Yeah, kinda reputation is linked, like, for example, how do you know is it a bad actor or good one on X? Yeah, you just have his handle, right? And then this reputation is somehow linked to this handle. And if you start over, then there is zero reputation. You need to build over all the reputation. And yeah, it could be bad or could be good, but you at least have this chance, right?
What's the breakdown right now of the companies that want to interface with Billions Network? Are you seeing mostly Web2 KYC teams that now want to add a verifiable component to it? Is it banks? Is it on-chain products? I'm sort of trying to picture what kind of customer base you have or you envision. And I'm guessing they pay you, right? Is that how you actually make money? If a DeFi product wants to, or if some team wants to do an airdrop, would they be somehow paying Billions Network to be able to use this KYC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's two components to it. Billions will have a token in the next few months. So we will create the tokenomics and the model so the whole participants and the project itself benefits in a way. This is based on growth and usage. We assume that there will be network fees because we bet a lot on Web3 space and on-chain interactions. That's one. Second part is we provide just services of integration of companies, governments. We provide the support to teams currently we're supporting airdrop campaigns. So basically, we provide proof of human, proof of uniqueness. That we have a portfolio of options to these teams. They decide what's the kind of choices they make in terms of distribution of incentives. Basically, we avoid bots to get airdrops if the team decides so, and we get paid for that. We have a connection with, we have all these marketplaces there. Privado, we have the marketplace of issuers, we have the marketplace of verifiers. We also ourselves, we have some basic credentials inside of Billions. So teams decide what's the recipe for the service and they do that. So there's past interactions with banks. We've been Polygon ID, all this trajectory. We interacted with governments. We've been lobbying with the European Union. We are in a sandbox currently in the European Union for age verification with another partner. We have, here and there you get funding, you get compensation, but our strategy is now very focused on Web3.
Okay.
With Billions, Privado has been more over the place. Yeah. But with Billions, the idea is to get the excellence of privacy for Web3 in the use cases of Web3. So that's why we talk about a lot of AI identity. A lot of partnerships happening today. And if you follow our Twitter, you will see several of them, AI teams basically partnering with us because our deep trust framework is an implementation of agent identity that you can provide some kind of accountability because humans and AI need to interact in a way that makes sense because we are solving the problem here of you receive contact from an AI agent, you don't know who is this agent representing, how is built, how is trained. There's a lot of teams that are super happy to work with us, but these are more long-term relationships. In the short term, we want to have development of human network, it's pretty clear. And of course, if we can develop AI agents also, looking forward to have our sweet spot is to optimize for on-chain interactions, and we create this kind of support of economy on-chain.
I have a question on the AI agent point. Specifically, like, are you picturing creating a registry for AI agents as well? Like, do you want to define, oh, you're a human, not AI? Or are you kind of like, you also want to define AI? Do you want those to have their own category? Because I think there's teams that do want agents to interact with them. It's not about blocking bots. It's actually about like engaging with these, but just maybe knowing what they are.
So it would be possible to distinguish, is it human? You can prove that you are a human, and you can have an identity and see that it's an AI agent, and who is an author, who is this agent representing, and so on.
We are not creating a network with humans only, because our protocol is very rich. We can ask agents also to have an identity and CK prove things. We can allocate credentials to an agent. They can do the same kind of interactions. Plus, there's all this world of reputation about attestations, experience, who train models. I'm not an expert on AI, but all these teams are so embedded. So this means we created something interesting. Plus, in terms of a regulator, we have discussed with some of them, and there's nothing. The regulation is completely lost on the AI topic.
Yeah.
Because AI agents are already there.
Yeah.
It's not only our mission is to save the internet in the age of AI agents, because you need to recognize what interactions you have with an AI agent. But in terms of operations, there's a legal framework that needs to have some kind of accountability. If someone wants to sue an agent, what you do?
Yeah.
Then you can be scammed quickly by an agent. There's more and more interactions, agents trading for you, agents selling you something. So all of this needs to be sorted. That's our framework also in place.
I'm just sort of trying to picture a case where like an AI agent tries to interface with one of these protocols, but because it almost like is lacking the proof of humanness, like some certificate, a passport, with an issuer, like the issuer's kind of proof that that's a real passport, that would basically mean the AI agent doesn't pass that ID test in a way because it's lacking some identifier, but it might have other identifiers. So if it's like, oh, well, actually, it's not about KYC for an investment, but actually we want just users to start playing with this tool and we want to know who they are, the AI agent may have whatever credentials it needs within billions to actually pass through that test, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Maybe there's another use case where there's an application that Anna can access, or an agent that represents Anna can also access.
Oh, okay. So I could almost like delegate authority to an AI, basically.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, exactly. You have the agent that represents you, and if you are, a specific employee, I'm an employee of this company, so my agent can also do the same thing. Or you can,
interesting,
set up a meeting with an agent that represents you in a way. So you know who you're talking to in a way. This kind of delegation of identity is also supported, and the agent can seek proofs something about the person that represents or the organization that represents.
Nice. Well, I want to say thank you to both of you, Sasha, David, for coming on the show, sharing with us sort of the evolution of Iden3 to Polygon ID to Privado to the Billions Network, explaining a little bit more clearly what the Billions Network project's goals are, and the revocation story. I like the fact that we've talked in this episode about the AI agents, so it was brought up once with, we had an interview with Kostas from SWE and Tarun as the co-host. The episode was about access control to accounts. But Tarun's example had been, what if you have all these AIs? How do you give them access or not have them have access? And it was kind of an interesting question. I don't know if the team at the time had been thinking that much about it. It sounds like you are. Yeah, in the ID space, I hadn't thought about the AI agents and how they should be labeled. But would you say, are you already today offering this AI agent component, or is this sort of a future build?
We have it already. Yeah, we have an implementation. We have SDK. We haven't yet open sourced it, but it is close to it. Yes.
Cool. Well, that's very interesting. Yeah, thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna, for having us. Again, it was great to spend some time with you, and we always learn from you. Thank you so much.
Cool. I want to say thank you to the podcast team, Rachel, Henrik, Tanya, and Hector, and to our listeners. Thanks for listening.